I just wanted to be that was my
That was so shocking.
that was my technology beginning to this session. Raquelle went on to what was, I think, the right Zoom link. I did not. We both were sitting there waiting for each other. I then couldn't connect. I'm just surrounded by technology that I don't know how to operate. And I just, every single time I start a recording, I'm like, please work. Anyway, those are our monkeys. Did you know that the saying, "Not my circus, not my monkeys," is a Polish saying? I'm not going to try and I have it in writing, but I don't know the Polish.
I mean, it doesn't
things.
really shock me for some reason.
Ni moj cirk, ni moj malpi. Literally, not my circus, not my monkeys. I think I definitely.
I think you butchered that.
My grandfather, by the way, fun fact, my grandfather was Polish. My grandfather would be so upset with me right now. Sorry, grandfather.
I enjoyed it though.
Thank you. I'm sure that any Polish people listening would be like, please never speak like that again. That's what we're talking about today. It's
not bad accents, but not my circus,
bad accents,
not my monkeys.
Not my circus, not my monkeys. Which actually I first heard from Katie. Hi, Katie. And you know, sometimes we would be doing things and we would be talking about stuff, and she'd be like, "Not your circus, not your monkeys," or "Not my circus, not my monkeys." Which, for those of you who haven't heard this saying before, essentially it's, this is not my problem. this is not for me to be dealing.
This is a you problem. It's not just this isn't my problem. It's that this is a you problem. Hold on.
Well,
stop.
I don't know though, because you could say "not my circus, not my monkeys" and not know whose circus and whose monkeys they were, and that's what I want to talk about. Because, so as you know, we've had a few brunch breaks recently, and we're gearing up for tech gearing up for some really fun things, which you'll find out more about. But it's we've been going through a lot of like shifts and moving. I've been moving into much more like heavily consulting. I've got so much stuff in front of the lens right now, so much voice work, and so many different gigs. And I don't know about you, but as I recalibrate, I'm often pulled into things that I don't know if they're my remit. I don't know if I'm supposed to be taking that thing on. And also, I don't know how to read.
This sounds so vague. Can you give me examples?
It is, because there are so many different circumstances where I'm like, okay, so I take on a project and I, let's say, I don't know what the best example I've ever had is when someone says to me, "Oh, can you get this to me? And can I have it tomorrow?" And it's something that is like kind of to do with me, but it's not my urgency. And so there's part of me that's like, this is just like not even in the last few months. This is recently spanning to like 10 years ago. I'll go into any kind of workplace and someone will be like, "Oh, I need this thing and I need you to be doing that right now." And they'll look at me as if I should have already known that and I should now take on their urgency as a result. And so I've just been feeling like, actually, thankfully with the consulting in the last month, I haven't done that because the whole thing is my circus. And so with the last month, I've been like, oh, I'm the person that needs to drive this clarity. And as an entrepreneur, so many of you out there are creative thinkers or creative in the creative industries, and you're typically self motivating, right? The thing that I have trouble with is when to say, that is not my problem. I need that to be a you thing. And you're very good at that. and I am not. I'm like,
I'm not always good at it. I'm
oh,
not always. I had a lot of reminders over the last month about exactly this. That
really?
certain, yes, a lot of reminders. I had, first of all, so I just got back from Tanzania and I met the most epic group of women, and they're so incredible and I love them so much. But yes, a lot of them had to remind me many of the times. This is not a you problem. This is another person's problem. Like, okay, yes, you're right. I'm backing off, hands are up. But it's hard. And okay, so I will distinguish a difference between my example and your example. I think your example is really coming down to time and a sense of urgency.
Mm,
And I think that I actually have consulted with people on this exact issue a number of times. And I think at the end of the day, the better you get at time projections, like the longer you do the consulting and the more used to the time projections you are, there's always going to be wayward things with consulting. There just always is. But the better you get at it, the better you can create those boundaries. And you're like an Uber tracker. So I think for you, it's got to be at your fingertips. I know you track everything.
but you have a great point, and I love this. Any other musicians out there? Yesterday, I was sitting there and I was like, I'm just going to spend like 45 minutes and I'm gonna just check my set list. 2.5 hours later, I'm like, ooh, this is really great. And then I'm like, okay, so you're right. And I think that's a really great point. For when you're doing projects, I get sucked in and it takes 3 times as long as I think it does. And so I'm really good at tracking how bad I am at projecting the amount of time that I need. And you and I talked about this yesterday where I was like, we need to start by how much time we can actually put into bombshells and then figure out what we can get out of it. Not let's do this and then 58 hours later every week we're like, we did it, and we're shells of humans as a result. so
But I think,
uh,
okay. So I think this is good. And then I think on the sense of urgency, um, this is so difficult to do, but I will say I've worked both on agency side where I'm the consultant, and I have worked on in-house. And I will tell you 90% of the time, urgency, emergencies don't actually exist the way it does in people's minds. Because when you're in-house, for most people, deadlines are self-given. So they're freaking out because they want to get this out by the deadline that was set and that they, gave to their whole team and everything. But for most cases, and of course there's going to be like live events and things like that that will be a bit different, but for most cases, the sense of urgency is self-driven. So
right.
especially if you're working with committees, if you're working with, like, you do career pathways, so you're working with someone who is applying for jobs, I think you really need to keep in mind like what their turnaround is. Maybe their dream job is truly like the next day is the deadline to add something in. But then you need to offload as much of that work to them as possible and say, okay, I can, for an extra charge, just like a plumber, when you call a plumber and it's midnight, he charges extra. For an extra charge, I can do a rush job on this, but I can only review it and edit it. So you need to put it together. I don't have the 3-hour block to sit with you and, do it side by side. I don't know if that's how your stuff works, but
That's a really great, well, actually you hit on both. So again, when I'm putting my artist hat on right now, some of the shows that are coming up I'm producing and some I am performing, and one I am doing both. So there is a combination, but I think it's really great. That's a great reminder that, like, okay, number one, what is it? Is it a self-imposed deadline, or is it a an actual deadline? And then secondly, really taking into account, I think you're right. As I start to do more of this consulting at this level, what'll be really interesting going forward is knowing how much time I need based on past experience in this capacity. So the capacity is also really important because, for example, one of the shows that I'm doing, that I'm putting on, I am activating all these spaces, and the team is amazing. And I'm really, it's actually it's at the Vancouver Chinese Garden, so it's a beautiful, stunning space, uh, and I'll be there on the 20th of May, uh, with all these different facets, and I have to get things to the people who are performing with me. That is a definite deadline. However, I don't know how long those things take yet. So the next time around, I have to be aware, and I think I have to build out more time than I
And
think.
buffer.
And
Buffers are
buffer time.
always important.
You're so right. And I think that's the juncture that I'm at right now, is going, for the first time actually in my career in the last decade, I have taken a month off of auditions. And that, I think, is exactly what you were talking about. It's like, okay, whose deadline is this? Is this deadline real? If both of those things, if it's my deadline and it's real, then I need to make sure that I'm adding in enough time and well in advance, making sure that I am clearing other things off of the
Or make
slate.
it work for you financially. That's the other option. I mean, I won't
Right.
say no to emergency contracts if the money's right. It
Right.
means I might pull some all-nighters. I may be a shell of a human after. But if the dollar sign is right, I will do it.
Meanwhile, with bombshell crunches, where the dollar sign, it seems to be this black hole.
Putting in more.
No, really good point. Really good point. And I think that's the professional side. And I think I'm having a lot of these conversations with a lot of friends of mine who are working in the creative industries, who are, entrepreneurs. You've got your side hustle, you've got your working on the corner of your desk kind of job, as well as your other work and other income, and trying to shift it, but also trying to keep everyone on various teams happy, and politely be able to assert or redirect when something isn't your deadline, when it's not your circus and it's not your monkeys, but you know that it potentially could help the greater picture if you do get involved. Like, that's the tough thing for me too.
Yes, but. That's the yes, but. So, yes, I can do this, but it's going to cost you double. Yes, I can do this, but it means I won't get you this.
Right.
It's up to you, at the end.
that.
And you can do that with bosses as well. Like if your boss is demanding too much of you, yes, I can do that. People love a yes, right? We all love a yes. Then the ball's in their court to decide what's more important. Do they really have this deadline? And if they do, it will be worth the money for them, or it'll be worth letting go of this other project. Or maybe they look at that and they say, actually, I really do need you on this project. I'm going to get someone else to do it, and hey, it's fine either way. But I think for me, business lines are so much easier than personal lines. I fall into the trap of not my circus, not my monkeys when it comes to personal lines. Business to me is like contractual. This is something I can play with. There's lines, there's like
we're the
boundaries.
opposite person.
Yeah.
You're the opposite person. Personal stuff, I'm like, nope, no. Why aren't you coming out tonight? Don't want to. Why aren't you doing this? Don't like you anymore.
Don't like you. No, okay, so I have to tell you a story. I have to fill you in on some stuff. I haven't even talked to Kristina since I've been back, so.
Yeah, I know, it's rude.
Because we've been in a meeting, but like a full day meeting, but that's it. We weren't actually talking to each other. Yeah. Okay, so when I was in Tanzania, me and this girl that I was rooming with, we went into town. We were like, let's check out the fabric markets. There's all these things to check out. So we go into town. And on the way there, there's these two little dogs in a crate in the middle of the street, and someone's selling them. And to me, it was quite clear that these were stolen dogs. I'm just going to be really blunt here and say the man did not look like he could afford the white little Pomeranians that they looked like. And the banged together chicken wire cage that he made them definitely said otherwise. So she was really concerned about them, and she couldn't get it out of her head. And I was like, girl, you got to let it go. Like you're in East Africa. Things happen. Children aren't fed. Like this is the world here. You cannot take everything home. So I said, you know what? Don't worry about it. Like we'll let the dog shelter know that these dogs are here. We'll go do our stuff, and if they're still there in the evening, we can talk about it. So we do this, and then when we came back in the evening, they were still there. And we didn't talk about it. She made it very clear she was going to immediately purchase them for astronomical prices. And I was like, this is like 4 years of this man's wages. What are you doing? So I was like, listen, you know, I don't think it's the best idea, but if this is, I'm a big believer that everyone needs to make their mistakes. They all need to learn for themselves. Like I'm someone who needs to learn for myself. I don't learn from other people's mistakes. So I was like, if this is something you really want to do, at least don't pay that much. So I'll help you negotiate the cost. So I brought it down. It was still unreasonable, but she paid it.
How much less? What was your how was your bargaining?
Oh, like almost half.
Yeah. Good job. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
As someone in Hong Kong night markets who is the worst at bargaining. Like
really?
They would look at me and be like, no. I'd be like, but I'm adorable. Like this 8-year-old, and my mum's like, yeah, she's ruined it. She's ruined it. Mum would jump in and be like, here, this is what we're going to give you the money for. And as soon as she spoke to them, they were like, oh, fine.
No, you just have to be ready to walk, and you have to look like you're ready to walk. Like I literally laugh in people's faces. They would always try to overcharge me, and I would laugh. I'm like, honey, I've been here way too long. No. So they call like white people Mzungus, and everybody calls you a white person. Like you're walking down the street and they're like, hey, white person, and they're pointing at you, and it's a big, it's a very exciting day for us all.
And you're like, that's me. I'm that person.
Over here. So I tell them like, no, don't give me the Mzungu price. I'm still gonna get the Mzungu price, but I'm not gonna get the like really, really shitty, like just got here fresh off the boat Mzungu price. Right. Anyways, so so this all happened, and then she took the dogs, and it was this big deal, and then the dogs couldn't stay at the shelter, so then we had to keep it in our room, but then it's not allowed in the room, so then it's out of the hostel, and then she wants to fly it to the States, but then the States say you can't. So then I was like, okay, well, I mean, we can fly it to Canada, and I can just rehome them.
She bought one dog or two?
Two.
She got two. Okay.
Two puppies. And I said, yeah, we can fly them to Canada, and then I can just rehome them. But then it was like, it turned into like, no, bring them to the States. I want to keep them, and this and that.
This is like an international. This is Cirque du Soleil. This is a traveling circus at this point.
This is literally a traveling circus.
This is wow.
I can't even explain to you. There are so many details that I'm skipping over because we are short on time. But long story short,
don't adopt dogs from the street if you can't.
That is the shortest version. Yes, please. Hot tip, people. Do not take on anything that you cannot actually follow through with. Do your research. Sit down, take a beat. They'll be there tomorrow. No one's buying them for 400,000 shillings. It's fine.
Like, shillings. I like that you threw that one in there. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But it was so crazy. It was such a crazy time. And then I was pretty decent, I think, because I'm a dog lover. I've fostered animals my whole life. Like since I was 5, I've fostered animals and rehomed them. So I felt like I was being pretty good at being hands off, but it's like Raquelle standards, and everyone else was like, you need to just let her figure this out, and figure out that she can't figure it out. And so I was kind of like patiently waiting, and if I was asked something specifically, then I would jump in. but in the end, she ended up leaving them in Tanzania because the flights would have been difficult. And
what with who?
so they went to the dog shelter. Which for me was so difficult because I was like, no, you take an animal, you follow through. Like this is now your life. I have 4 dogs. This is a lifelong responsibility. Their lives. Hopefully it's not both of your lives, but
Yeah.
this is a big responsibility. So I was talking to them and I was like, well, you know, like this person's going home on this airline and this person's going home on this airline. Maybe if each of them took a dog, and I was about to like master plan this. And the head of the hostel, she just looked at me and she said, Raquelle, you do not have time for this. You have your podcast, you have your other thing that I'm not going to mention, but you guys will all know about very soon coming up. You have your thesis that you're working on. I was running a huge volunteer fundraising campaign, and they were like, you don't have time. Let it go. We don't have time. That's it. And I was like, yes.
You know what?
Yes.
You absolutely hit the nail on the head when earlier, like, it really comes down to time. Like, you can help. And I get it. On the personal side, it's only been, I think, this year that I've stopped. And you've helped me a lot to be like, no, this is not your problem. You need to let that go. And I have amazing fire friends who remind me that, because I'm the same. I'm like, I can do this and therefore I should.
Yes.
And that statement is singularly one of the most difficult statements for me to have had overcome. Personally and professionally, because if I can do it, then I want to. If I look at anyone or anything else on the planet and I go, well, that will help. Like, that's, you know, we're both we're very our mother's daughters. Like, if someone can be helped, I'm going to be like, oh.
Yeah. And the less good side of me is also like, I just hate watching people struggle. And not in the sense that like, oh, you poor thing, I don't want to watch you struggle. I mean, like, it annoys me when I watch people struggle with things that I think are basic. And so, yeah, no, this is like,
I was waiting for like kindness. Like, oh, I really don't. Yeah, because it's boring. You're boring.
It just annoys me. I'm like, come on, like this should be done. It should have taken 10 minutes. Like, let's go.
Oh, see, okay, again, we switch once again, Professor X and Magneto. But you know what happens with me is I don't know, again, I'm in songwriter mode right now, but like, oh, if you're listening to this and you're like, one of the things I said recently is our job as creatives and people who write, even if you're a writer or actor or whatever, your emotions are like always on your sleeve, always. You're trained to bring them close to the surface so that you can put them on paper and put them into songs or put them into scripts and that sort of thing, perform. That means when someone does something and I can see a tiny struggle, I'm like, zoom, straight in, and I'm like, oh, this is what this would feel like to me. This is how I would embody this. It's this empathy where you go in and you're like, oh, that must feel like this. And then immediately you go into the, I can help, I should help, I superhero cape, put my cape, let me help you. Let me help you. I want to help you. I don't want to help them. My other part of me is like, you've got so many other things to do. But this other part is like, superhero, we can do it together. And then once we've done it together, then we'll feel better. And typically what happens is you do it and they go, oh, thanks a lot.
Yeah. No, I think we're so opposite. We're so opposite. It kills me because I actually like most of the time if I'm helping someone, it's because I'm annoyed with how long they're taking or
like, thanks. I'll keep that in mind. I will remember that.
Or I'm like, what are you doing? Like, this is so clear. Come on. Like, please, let's go.
We did this yesterday. And Raquelle was like, this is the answer. I was like, I'm just going to ask this to the group because I still don't get it. Raquelle's like, this is the answer. This is the answer. And then I was like, oh, that's the answer. Cool. Thanks. I know. Now I know. Oh, you're so right, though. I think that's it. It's a good way to be, because you're like, hey, I need this fixed. You need to fix this so that we can move on to other things. But
I just don't want to watch you struggle anymore. It's like a turtle on its back.
I'm constantly anything with technology, which means to do with this podcast or TV show or anything that we have. I'm always going to be the turtle on the back. I'm always going to be like, what am I doing?
But see, with my turtle on the back moments, you just really enjoy watching me struggle. Like when I have to be on camera.
Oh yeah,
that's a script. She gets so much malicious joy out of it. It is
very smug. I'm very smug. Raquelle's like, "Don't worry, I'll be fine." I'm like, "It's done now."
I'm stuttering through it all. I'm like, "Don't post that." She's like, "One and done." I'm like, "No, no."
Oh, it's so true. But you're great. It's in the moment. It's hilarious. People love it.
It's authentic.
It's authentic.
Authentic turtle on the back struggle.
Yeah, the trolling is just a bonus. It's just.
And actually, people do love it. I don't know why, because it's actually the worst.
It's the worst to you, but you know, you don't get to decide what other people enjoy, or including myself.
What? Says who?
So let's bring this back round, because we wanted to do a real short one, because we've got some big announcements to kind of tell you later. Not now, darlings. But the Not My Circus, Not My Monkeys thing is I think it's a natural part of leveling up. I think it's a natural part of leveling up to say, at what point do you kind of
let go?
What time do you let go? At what point? And how do you do that? Like how, we joke about it and we're like, yeah, we're brutal people. But the reality is, if you're working in a professional setting where, you care about the people you're working with, or you can recognize that you're making assumptions. I very much was the type of person that was like, it's not my circus, but I've decided to throw myself in there. And being able to extricate yourself after you've established that personality trait has been just as hard for me. So for me to be able to say, I'm going to set an intention in my meditations. The last week has been like productivity based, and I'm setting intentions every morning. And one of the intentions that I set was, I'm going to take a moment, take a breath, actually ask myself, what will happen if I don't do this?
Mm-hmm.
And then I think what I'm going to add to that now is look at my plate before I give the answer, because my visceral reaction is to be like, I will help and I'll make it work, professionally or personally. I will help and I'll make it work. And now I think with what we've just talked about in this really lovely little 25-minute, super quick, you only get us for 25 minutes this week.
It's a little quickie.
It's a little quickie. But you just dropped it straight away. How much time do you actually have? How much buffer time have you built in? And, is this really something that, are you taking away someone's lesson from them?
That's a huge thing.
I
think it's so important for people to learn.
Yeah.
It's not fair to take their lessons away. So,
and how do you do that? And I guess this is a question to our, beautiful audience of, how do you do that? How do you do that and then be okay with that? Because I've struggled with not being okay with it, where I think about it and I'm like, oh, I could just
really
just drop in a little. Yeah. What? Are you joking? I do that to you all the time. You're like, oh, I don't know. I'm like, here's some solutions.
Oh, I thought you meant like you drop in because you feel bad that someone's struggling.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. See, again, heartless Raquelle rises.
And the funniest thing is, I'm out here like working with all these people to help them.
Yeah.
But it's
just trying to write a song here.
I'm less endeared to people who I think have the resources to be capable of doing the things, but I see a sense of like laziness or I don't know. I think that's a big one for me is I think a lot of times I see a level where I'm like, you could do this and you should do this, but you're not because you're being a little lazy. That's where I stop, like my emotions kind of stop. But I'm not totally heartless.
Not totally. Just for the record. Yeah. 90%. Well, I think that's a really good point though, you know, and I think there's a line. What I have to learn is when I feel like that, and this is where I turn again. If I truly feel like someone can see the problem and is not helping themselves, and I am certain that that's the case, then I am really not the person you want nearby.
I know.
If I can see that, or there's, you know, like you said, some
but
laziness.
You really, 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 really need to be certain. Like I think
have to be
people are
certain.
more afraid of you than me, but you actually have a much longer fuse than I do.
I think that might be accurate, but I don't think anyone's afraid of me. I mean,
I think some people are afraid of you.
I mean, that's very kind of you. Thanks. I really appreciate that. My Devil Wears Prada. My Miranda is very happy about that. But I think, yeah, I think you might be right. And I think I do have a really long fuse. But what I'd love to learn as a creative, as someone who's, you know, getting more and more entrepreneurial, as you and I go through things, is, and with the team is making sure that the expectations are managed the whole way. Because there are some times where I'll see that someone is, they don't know that they don't know. They don't know what they don't know. Like for me, when you say to me, you've said stuff to me before where you do this really well and you'll be like, this is what is happening. And you'll see, like, why wouldn't I can see you being like, why doesn't she get this? But you trust that I actually don't. Like, even though I'm smart in certain other ways, you'll be looking at me as I'm trying to put together a piece of gear. And you'll be like, what is happening right now? And I'll be like, the thing fell off of the thing and I can't plug the thing. And you're like, wow, this person went from like being really articulate to like this jello.
This jello.
Like little like jelly that just can't like all of a sudden has no fingers to do anything. So I think,
first of all, I never think that of you ever, but I'm really enjoying the visual.
Honestly, I think where we get to, especially as I work in career pathways, in accessibility, in reducing and like lowering the barriers and dissolving those barriers to entry, there's so much to be said. And I think this is where maybe I want to put a pin in this for everyone to think about, myself included. To us to come at, as Larry says, to come at it from kind curiosity and be like, why is this a struggle for you? Has this been a struggle for you before? Is this an issue? And if someone turns around to you and says, like, for me, for example, where I'm like, yeah, I'm not good with technology, then you can be like, okay, well, how can I help you this time so that this doesn't happen again? Because
if someone said that to me in a meeting, I would literally just quit.
Why?
I would be like, I have failed. Is this a common problem for you? Do you see this recurring over and over in your life?
Okay, I'm a work in progress. I don't know how else am I supposed to ask that? Is this really is this my circus? Like, are you really, have you put your problem onto me
Are
a
you
lot?
truly this inept? Is this really what
Yes, but okay, humor me here. Imagine a world where you could be that honest in the workplace, where you and I do this all the time, where you're like, is that really an issue? And I'm like, yeah. And you're like, okay, well, that's what I'm dealing with now.
Oh my God.
And vice versa. You know, imagine that. That would be so nice. I would be so happy if I'm like, are you being useless right now just because you are? Like, are you having a bad day? What's happening? And to have the response be like, yeah, having a real bad day. Need to have a nap. Need nap now. Okay, go have a nap. I'll see you in 15 minutes. If you come back and you're still useless, like
Go
we're gonna have to
home.
hire someone else. We're gonna have to hire someone to do that one little job, like to put that screen protector on your phone, because you can't do it. Pay someone $10. You owe that person lunch.
Oh, I think I just got a stitch. This just made me so happy. I've missed our recordings. So I don't know if everyone knows, but we pre-recorded for the last like 8 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, because I was gone. And so we have not actually sat down face to face, virtual face to face, and recorded in a while. I just enjoy it so much.
It's nourishing with our invisible audience who come to us to the table later and then spam us on Instagram. We love you. Okay, we got to go because we have to go do some other important things that we'll announce later. Look at all these. We're like,
we're so secretive right now.
We're so secret right now. Stay tuned, but because I know that this episode's coming out next week, you can definitely come to the Vancouver Chinese Garden Show. And if you're listening to this retrospectively, then you'll probably find snippets of it online, and hopefully it will be great. It will be my first big musical circus in a garden.
Yay!
Yay!
I can't wait.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see you next week. Don't forget to give us your circus monkey stories. And thanks, Katie and Poland, for the phrase.
Should we do like a Q&A in our stories? Let's do an Instagram Q&A and ask for people's monkey circus stories.
Let's talk about the word we. Who's we here? Is this both of us? Is this you?
It's the royal we.
It's the royal. That's a whole other brunch break. There's going to be a confrontational brunch break. We need to do those. Like Raquelle's going to be like, "Okay, you and technology, you need to." And I'm going to be like, "The we."
Oh my gosh, you hate the. She's been working on we with me for what, 2 years?
It's been 2 years. It's getting better. It is. I think we're both. But
I had 6 weeks away from you, so I've started.
That's right. I got to iron that out. What happened to you? Are you just being useless?
Are you truly this inept?
Yeah.
Or are you just having a terrible day?
Do you need a nap? Go. Pay someone to speak for you. Okay. We'll see you later. Bye-bye, darlings.
Goodbye.
Thanks for listening, bombshells. In order to continue to elevate, subscribe and don't forget to click that little bell so you can get notified every time we have a new badass brunch. Until next time, stay focused, fierce, and fabulous.